gà nướng, hột vịt lộn, hột vịt sữa, trứng cút lộn, mắm xào đây.
Whether you're an expat here in Vietnam or you're living in your home country, you're probably always thinking about the future. And when it comes to long-term savings, where do you even begin? So that's where our partner Tenzing Pacific can really help you. One of the benefits of living in Vietnam is the cost of living is more affordable, so it often means that you have an increased amount of disposable income. And if you've got disposable income, how do you make the most of that extra cash to help you build a solid financial future? With Tenzing Pacific, you can start investing for as little as $250 a month. And they work with international providers, giving you access to world-class investment managers and global brands that you know. And one of the best things about investing is it's all about getting rich in the future. And by investing just $500 a month for 5 years, with a standard 8% annual return, you could end up with over $250,000 after 30 years, which is not bad for actually only investing $30,000. Now, I know 30 years sounds like a long time, but I've been in Vietnam for 8 and I feel like I got here yesterday. It's not that long. And that is the power of consistent investing. So are you ready to secure your future with the world's leading investment opportunities? Then talk to a Tenzing advisor today and find out how easy it is to start saving. Click the link in the description to get started and access special offers for a Vietnam podcast. And our partner, Seven Bridges Brewing Company, has just been crowned Champion Brewery of Vietnam at the 2024 Asia Beer Championship. And not only that, 4 of their beers have won 2 gold medals at international competitions. Well done to all those guys and their team. That is absolutely incredible. But as you may know about Seven Bridges, it's not just about the beer. They are committed to sustainability, which I absolutely love. And their brewing is with a focus on making a positive impact. So they reuse a lot of their ingredients in things like their pizza dough and their amazing spicy dragon sauce. So it means that you can enjoy a great beer and support a company that cares about the environment. So if you're hungry and you're a little bit thirsty, then they've got you covered with some of the best pizza that goes with their spicy dragon sauce and my favorite drink, the Hai Van Haze. So cheers to good beer, good food, and doing good. Get yourself down to Seven Bridges Brewing Company, wherever you can find them in Vietnam. And most importantly, when you do go, make sure you invite me if you're in Saigon, and I'll see you there for a beer.
Hột gà nướng, hột vịt lộn, hột vịt sữa, trứng cút lộn, mắm xào đây.
We are back with another Saigon Sunday Sessions episode just for you of a Vietnam podcast. We're doing something a little bit different. We're releasing an episode every Sunday of a bit more of a casual catch-up. So thank you for listening. Remember, turn on notifications, follow, subscribe, all of that good stuff as well. You don't want to miss an episode at all. And please join our community on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/A Vietnam podcast if you want to become a Bop Sao Dare. That means you're going to get episodes early. You're going to get invitations to our special events in Saigon, and hopefully we'll do some online as well. So I'm really excited for our Saigon Sunday session today because we're talking to 2 traitors, 2 people who left the confines of Hanoi and came to Saigon. And so in this episode today, we're going to be talking about the differences between Saigon and Hanoi, why Saigon is better. No, I'm kidding on. I know it's not better. I've spoken to many people before. They're just different. They're not better. They're just different. But my guests today are an old friend, an old comedy friend who also was a co-host on the podcast when I took a long break. I couldn't take it anymore. And Paul did an amazing job. He actually interviewed a superstar. One of the most famous people we've probably ever had on the podcast was Justin Young, who plays for the Vietnam national basketball team.
He's just retired. Yeah.
And also we have his lovely partner, Krista Bernard. So guys, thank you very much for the Sunday sessions. We're sitting in their apartment right now. We're having some beers. So I guess biggest question is, why did you leave Hanoi?
That was probably my fault. Paul was in Hanoi much longer than I was. I was there for 3 years. He was there for 5. And I needed a new job. So I applied for a few. I had pro-con lists. We had cue cards. We decided for months.
Yeah, because
at least 2 months.
You were waiting on final offers and final. Because you're comparing, like you said, a couple of Hanoi offers and an offer down here, and it's like Was there some details they couldn't give you, like cash amounts or so other, like salary amounts and something else?
Like one school hadn't even made me an official offer. So I was like, do I stay? Do I not? So then a school down here made me an offer. And then it turned out at the time that Paul's company was like, we're not sure if we can give you hours. So it was like serendipitous, like maybe we should move. Maybe it's time. The stars aligned.
Yeah, it's always like that, isn't it?
And
like,
we moved. Yeah. So we packed up everything.
So how long were you guys in Hanoi?
I moved there at the start of 2019. So like January 2019. And how about you?
2021, COVID.
You got there during COVID. You told us this before, didn't you?
Yeah.
Why did you get there 2021? What happened?
So I was teaching in Abu Dhabi and I ended up getting the job in Hanoi and they couldn't process my visa right away. So they ended my work permit in Abu Dhabi and I had to leave the country. So then I spent 2 months in Thailand teaching online with the school in Hanoi. So I arrived in like October during lockdown. So didn't meet any of my colleagues, didn't even get a tour of the school.
It's such a weird time, isn't it?
It was horrendous. Like I was like, I made a mistake. I can't even go get groceries.
So how bad? So that's October 2020.
2021.
Oh, because that's when Omicron hit, right? And Vietnam, Vietnam was like a year behind. So well, obviously we know what the lockdown was like. When I say we, Adrie's here as well, by the way. We know what the lockdown was like in Saigon, but at that time, what was it like in Hanoi?
Went through phases. Like I remember at the start of it was really scary in 2020, and then most of 2020 was okay. And then I remember it all sort of going to absolute after there was any big like Vietnamese holidays. Legitimately like Autumn Festival, remember that in like 2020? It booming after that, and after Tet in 2021, boom, booming after that, everything shutting down again.
When was it we went to Dalat, remember? And it was so ominous. April 30th, 2020, 2021.
And it was after that. That's
Yeah, and we literally knew it was coming. It was like we went on this trip and it was just so ominous. Like we knew everyone was traveling. It was like a big holiday. Like
Hong Kong King or something, right?
Yeah.
That's right in April,
right. Yeah. And I remember we were in Dalat and we just didn't feel comfortable at all. We were
we
like,
didn't go to the night. Stayed away from the town.
was that right? Yeah. Yeah. Crazy.
I think I arrived after the weird stuff. I've heard stories about them putting checkpoints and you couldn't walk to the Vinmart, or like you couldn't leave your street because they had security at the end of the street. When I arrived, that was gone. I did have to spend 2 weeks, 2 months. Could you imagine? Oh.
Yeah, no.
No, it was supposed to be 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And then when I arrived, they changed the law to 2 weeks in the quarantine hotels. And
It's not like they change the rules every day or anything like
yeah.
that.
And then I was able to find an apartment and then walk to the store. But like the streets would be empty. No one would be out walking. And that's when I learned how to drive a motorbike too.
We were just talking about when Adrie learned to ride a motorbike, because when we got here, I'd ridden motorbikes, like scooters, not motorbikes, but like my whole life, whole adult life, right? Because I had a Vespa when I was in university, and then we've obviously been to Thailand and so ridden a bike. But even when we got here, I was like, I am never riding a bike. We will just use taxis. They're cheaper here. I don't care. We're just going to get a taxi. And this was before Grab. I was like, we will just get a Venison everywhere. We are not, this traffic is crazy. And it took, 2 months before eventually I was like, okay, I think we should buy a bike. And I got a bike in that first year. And then I find it quite easy to drive here. It looks chaotic, but once you do it, it's just kind of like, you just go with the flow, right? Like water. But so after about 2 years? Just 1 year? Adrie was like, okay, I need to learn. Because she was getting Grab bikes everywhere or relying on me picking her up.
Patience is not quality.
So Adrie was like, I need to learn. So we got you like did we buy the bike first? Or you learned on mine first? So I had the 125 Yamaha Novo. And we came here to D7 and we found this empty lot that's still there near Crescent Mall. And it was really cute. It was like literally teaching a kid how to ride a bike, because Adrie would be like on there. Obviously I wasn't holding it because it was going too fast to hold it. But she's going slowly around this parking lot. But we were just talking about it. Was that yesterday? About when you took the first turn?
Oh, and fell over.
No, there was that one as well. The first time she took me on the back, she took a turn and then fell over because she took it too slowly because she was so scared. So she went so slowly, the bike just tipped over with me on it.
Like you were on it.
Yeah.
And we had like a bunch of groceries.
It was stupid, yeah. We had 2 big bags of groceries. I was on it. No, but the other one I'm talking about is, so Adrie had been doing a bit of lessons, and then we were coming out of the Crescent Mall area onto one of the bigger streets. What's the name of it again? It goes into, I forget the name. Anyway.
Fumihang.
Yeah, into Fumihang.
Yeah.
Making a right turn without looking. You can't.
No blind spot. Just look. Just go.
You just go. If you wait for an opening as you do in the West, you will never turn. And so I just had to go, and it was.
And so we were just at this turn, and I'm like, go. Oh, wait. I'm like, no, go. And I think we might have been on the 50cc at that point, because I remember there's no power to it as well. It was part of the problem. That wasn't like, so that's when you learned the bike. That's when Adrie learned how to ride a bike.
I do remember trying to teach a friend, and I was like, you have to hire a professional. I can't teach you. She was so scared, and she also would go so slow. And I'm like, you're actually making it harder for yourself because of how slow you're going. So in Hanoi, there's a company called Chicks and Bikes. And I actually don't know why it's called Chicks and Bikes, because it's not just for girls.
Oh, right.
I know why, because originally, like I know the girl who founded it. She used to do comedy. One of the co-creators, Saria is her name, and they did create it, and it was supposedly just to be for girls, to teach girls how to ride a bike. And then I think after a while they realized that 50% of the population is
You've got 50% of your mark.
Yeah, so definitely much more female friendly. But I think they're still up and running now. And yeah, I've recommended people with them before. So yeah, if you need to learn how to ride a bike and you're in Hanoi, whether you're a male or female.
So you'd never ridden a bike before?
Yeah, I have. So I grew up on a farm. So like we had motorbikes.
Okay. So
I ended up starting on a semi-automatic, which everyone's, no, you can't do that. And I'm like, why not? I feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
But the traffic was insane. I was like, there's no way. I don't know. I don't understand how you do this. And then because I was doing it during COVID, I was like, this is cool. I drove to work a few times.
This is so easy. What's everyone talking about?
There's a few roundabouts, and I was like, oh, this could be trouble. And it was easy. And then lockdown was lifted. Oh my.
What a rude awakening.
Roundabouts.
Training wheels are off.
Oh, roundabouts in the West are one thing. In cars, people are idiotic. In fact, in the newspaper, they put in instructions on how to.
In Canada?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Recently?
Sometimes. Like 15 years ago, I guess. They put in 2 roundabouts in the city. I think the city's 15,000 people. They put in instructions because it was a 2-lane roundabout. So where do you put your blinker on? And if you're exiting, what do you do? And they need that here. Like there's no one stays in their lane. No one.
Well, lanes don't exist.
And cars. Oh, every day there's an accident in the roundabout.
Yeah.
I was nervous every day. I'd get to the roundabout. I'm like, oh no, don't crash.
So because I've never lived in Hanoi, I've been there a couple of times. Like, what is it like to live there?
Let's talk about traffic in Hanoi first.
Yeah, is that worse or is it?
I feel like it's similar, but in Hanoi there's a lot of just go. There's no one there. Just go. Just go.
Red light.
So red light. You better red light, and cars are turning in front of you, but there's a gap. Just go. Just go. And friends with Vietnamese partners, they'll be in the back driving, and they'll be like, stop at a red light, and the partner will be like tapping them on the shoulder. What are you doing? Go. Like, why are you? There's a gap there. Go. And I don't know. When I first moved down here, because I lived there for 5 years, I would definitely drive more of that style. But most of the time in Hanoi, it's happening so often. Everyone's doing that, so you're like,
So it's more chaotic in Hanoi.
Yeah, well, I think here, I'm not going to say it's completely opposite, but I would say people generally stop at lights more. Yeah. So a little bit more respectful of the rules.
Though. I wonder, because, we've been here 8 years. I don't know. Because you guys have just moved to Saigon, right? Like Saigon, it's changed in terms of the roads dramatically in the last few years. Like they've made them so much more well managed. Like before, they never used to have median strips down the middle. So the bikes and the cars, like if it was rush hour going one way, they would just get onto the other side. And in the evening, it was going the other way. And then the one I always talk about is the one in Bintan, which now is basically just a highway. But when we first got here, it was still pretty much a highway, but it had a cross junction with a red light. And so it would go red. And then there was just a massive bikes and cars had to wait where the cars crossed. And now, so they've made a lot of good changes where they've taken away these crossroads. They've made everything much more streamlined. So I wonder though if it used to be like that in Saigon. I would bet it used to be, and now they've made it a bit more. Because the other thing I've heard is in Hanoi nobody wears helmets, whereas here everybody wears helmets.
That's definitely the thing as well. Yeah, a lot of not wearing a helmet. I always find it really horrific when I see young families without helmets and young kids without helmets. As someone who, when I was a kid, I was on a bicycle push bike and I fell off it, knocked myself out.
Well, that explains a lot.
In the hospital. Yeah, thanks. but I was wearing like one of those foam helmets and it smashed into 6 different pieces. Like it smashed up, and they said if I wasn't wearing that, like I would have died. And that was just a bicycle thing. So yeah, and I've heard Vietnamese friends say, "Oh, it's too expensive to constantly buy helmets as kids like size up and grow up." But I'm just like, I don't know. It's not about them as a driver, the parents as a driver. It's someone else driving past.
The worst one that I hate is when they have the kids standing on the bike. Have you seen this? Yes. There'll be the dad driving, the mum in the back, and in the middle they have the kid and they hold them. And I'm like, okay, they don't have a helmet on. It's bad enough, but you've just increased their elevation by only 2 feet. But if you fall from 2 feet higher if you crash on the bike and you're holding the kid, it's going to be bad. But right now, you're just basically dangling this kid in the air. That's the one that gets me.
I don't know, because I think about like my friends, when I first moved here, my friends' daughters were here and he was here then, and they were like 4 and 5. And I remember driving the bike and he's like, one of the girls on the bike with you? And I'm like, oh, sure. And he's like, I'll put them in front of you. And I'm like, why? And he's like, their attention span's terrible. If you put them behind, they might forget. And they're not like, because they're not Vietnamese kids, they're more likely to fall off. And he's like, you don't want to put one of those belts on. I feel like they're stupid. So I remember having a 4-year-old girl sitting in front of me, and I'm like, got my hands on either side of her, and she's sitting in front, putting her hands on the dash, and she'd have a little helmet on. Izzy is the girl I'm thinking of. I remember driving. And so I'm on the bike, she's in front of me, and then my friend's on the bike with his wife and their other daughter on the bike next to me. We're driving along, and Izzy had like sunglasses, a helmet, and a mask on. And the mask has blown and sit up. And she's like, Paul, it's sit up. I can't see. And I'm like, keep your hands on the dash. And she does it. And then it's car like someone pulls out. I slam the brakes, and then she like face plants right on the dash of the bike and bursts into tears crying. But there's traffic all around. I can't stop. And then we pull over and stop her in a little bit. And she's crying. Then she like settles down, and I'm like, I feel terrible. And her dad's like, nah, she's fine. Like, you told her being on the bike. She's got to keep her hands there. And I'm like, okay.
She'll be right. She'll be right.
Kiwi guy.
But Vietnamese friends have told me that it's not about the money necessarily, but it's this old wives' tale that if you have the helmet, their brain won't develop. It will compress. So like in Hanoi, you're starting to see more adults with helmets, but not kids. I think when we left, there was more traffic police cracking down, because at the top of Tonak Nan, the street that I was living on, they were breathalyzing people every night. That was brand new. I didn't see a cop for the first year or 2 years I lived there.
I never got breathalyzed in Hanoi. Never.
Have you been breathalyzed here?
3 times in
Really? I'm breathalyzed.
Yeah.
But there was an article just this week in Toi Che News, and I think it was written by an expat, and when it got posted, there was a lot of people giving the guy who wrote it a lot of shit, because one of the things he put was like, oh, when you go to Tao Dien, you see all these people without helmets on, and that is true, but like you go to any Vietnamese neighborhood, you go to Bintan, you go to anywhere, there's people without helmets all the time, because they're just going locally, right? They're going. I used to, and I still make fun of people in Tao Dien who don't wear helmets. But now I get it, because they're never leaving Tao Dien. They're literally going round the corner. Yeah. Jumping on your scooter is the same as jumping on your bicycle. They're not going far. So I'm a bit less critical now, but this guy did that quote. But what the article was about was children not wearing helmets. And apparently there's no law in Vietnam that children under 6 years old have to wear a helmet. And part of the reason is, so I didn't mention that old wives' tale. I've heard that old wives' tale that it stunts neck development and brain development. But part of the problem is there's not helmets for children of that size. Like, they just don't exist. They're not effective anyway. But the other thing about the helmets as well, so here in Saigon, when we first got here, I don't think it was mandatory. And so we'd often see people without helmets. And then I can't remember what year it was, they made it illegal to travel without a helmet. So now everyone wears them here. But I read this about 6 months ago or a year ago, that the statistics show that there has been no drop in deaths from head-related traffic accidents because people are wearing the helmets, but they're just wearing pieces of shit. They're wearing, and people, they wear bicycle helmets, they wear little bits of plastic. Have you seen people wear like the military helmets? They don't clip them. Yeah, that's one of my jokes I make is about when you see people wearing a helmet and they don't clip it, do they go home and have sex and just hold the condom? It's ridiculous. Yeah. What do you mean you're pregnant? I had a condom the whole time. Like
they're using it wrong. They're just like putting it over their ear or something. Yeah.
So that's what I read. I don't know if it's true. I didn't like fact check it, but I could imagine that even though people are wearing the helmets, they're following the rules, it's not actually making any difference to health. It's not saving anyone's lives because people are just wearing these shitty...
But I think it has to do with speed too. Traditionally, I think like people would just be driving like 15, 20 kilometers an hour. And now with these highways and these roads, they're literally made to go faster. And maybe that's the difference. There's a bug.
Oh, I don't know if you could hear Paul shrieking in the background now.
It wasn't me. It was someone else.
I think that's another difference that I found from Hanoi roads. Hanoi roads are terrible. There's potholes.
Oh, really?
They're like, people will plant trees or sticks in the middle as warnings.
Yeah. Instead of a road cone.
Yeah.
I know, they do that here as
well.
No
road cones, but like it's everywhere. Here you'll see it on the back roads, but this will be like main roads that I'm taking to work. And at nighttime, you can't see them. And if you hit that thing, it doesn't matter if you're...
The roads here, as I said, they are quite good, I think. They've gotten the most of the roads are pretty good.
Flooding.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think the roads are better. But then like I think about, I think the roads are better. But then I feel like I only ever drive between like D7 and Tao Tien. And I feel like that's some of the most developed parts of Ho Chi Minh. So of course there's good roads.
I think most of Saigon, because it is the big city, the roads are pretty good. And they've improved over the years. Yeah. They're always relaying them. Have you ever just been like gone out and then you're like, oh, they changed the road overnight? Like they literally will relay a road overnight. Whereas I feel like in the West, in the UK, that would be like a 4-month project, right? Whereas here you come out your house and, oh shit, they redone the road last night. Well, I didn't even see any.
There'd be those big signs saying roadworks coming soon.
Yeah.
Like you do like a 4-month warning. It should be done by like the end of 2022. And then it's 2025 and they're just starting. You're like, cool.
The sign still says coming 2022.
Yeah.
No, I listen to New Zealand radio. They're based in Auckland. And they talk about the road cones because apparently they're like, whoever owns the road cones business is caning it. They're making so much money because...
We saw them in Perth.
The road cones in Perth as well.
Road cones?
Yeah, they're like, they barely spaced out. And it's just like somebody knows the road code. If you can hear Biscuit barking, Biscuit's being impatient. What are you barking about? So she does this, right? She gets really excited to come somewhere, go whether it's a bar or someone's house or wherever it is. And then as soon as she gets there, she's like, okay, I want to go home now. Yeah. Oh, she wants attention. She'll just sit and stare at Adrie. We call it the eyes. So when she wants to go home, she'll just stare at Adrie like this. Not me, because she knows I'll just ignore her. But so what is, apart from the traffic, enough traffic chat, enough weather chat. We haven't even talked about the weather, but no, we'll minimize weather chat.
You heard about Moldy March.
Moldy March.
Or what is Moldy March? Well, we can have a bit of weather chat then.
Well, it's self-explanatory. It's like when it's heating up and there's lots of rain in Hanoi. So it's humidity. Humidity is really high, so everything gets moldy. So everyone...
We don't have much mold in Saigon. Even though it's humid.
When I heard about this from a friend that lives in Hanoi, I was appalled. I was like, what do you mean Moldy March? Everything gets moldy. She said that she had, what are they called? Dehumidifiers. And she would leave 2 on when she would go to work. She'd come back every day. And in March, she comes back every day. She still lives there. And they're full of water. She would have to leave her cabinets open during the whole month and her closet as well, because everything in the cabinets will get moldy if she doesn't. It just sounds horrific. So
Remember when we lived in New Zealand? We lived in this apartment that was, everything's on the water in Wellington where we lived. And one day we pulled out the cupboards. We'd been living there for 6 months or something like that, right? And we pulled out the wardrobe. We just never even thought about it. And there was just mold everywhere. I know Adrie's face. It was so disgusting.
And depending on your apartments, it'll just be dripping from the walls.
That's what she said.
Yeah, and your whole wall will grow mold. But in your closet, your clothes just hanging collect the heat and the moisture, and then your clothes will be moldy.
Well, New Zealand wasn't hot, but I don't know how mold works. I don't know how mold works, but
Moisture, high water content, and like warmth or like temperature.
Because it's like cold to warm, right? March.
yeah.
But it's starting to change. Like with, I think last year it wasn't even March. It was like
February.
no later, April. But I was too cheap, and I knew I was moving, so I didn't buy an actual humidifier. So I buy these little like closet humidifiers, and in 3 days they'd be full of water. So
In
then-
Hanoi.
So you put these in your closet, and they fit more easily, right? They bigger. It wouldn't work in the closet. So you'd have like 3 of these in your closet, and they just fill with water, and then you just
And you use them here as well.
Yeah.
Does it fill with water
Yeah.
here? We should buy
yeah. But it takes 2 months to fill. But I
You
feel
said 3 days
terrible
in
because
Hanoi.
of the plastic.
You can make. I used to make. There's even cheaper ones you could make where you buy like a Coke bottle or whatever, cut it in half, and then have sort of like and flip the top bit so it's sitting in it, the nozzle bit down, and then in top of that put like a bunch of rock salt, and then loosen off that so it's like upside down, and then loosen it off, and so that the salt would draw all the water in, and then it would just drip out the bottom to there. Shout outs to Axiax who showed me that, and I would put that in all my wardrobes because I didn't want to buy those things.
But what are the things that you bought for the wardrobe? Nail knives? All those bags?
The bamboo.
Yeah. They dehumidifiers.
They're
Yeah, Adrie got some like bamboo bags. What is in them? Like stuff like that?
I think it's either
Charcoal,
charcoal.
maybe?
Charcoal's pretty absorbent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like little.
Yeah. It's nice not having that here.
Yeah.
We do, yeah. Like
Yeah.
landlord issue.
But so what makes Hanoi then different? Because so this podcast, I mean, I've only ever lived here, so we talk about Saigon a lot. And I always have to qualify myself because I've been really guilty over the years. And I'm better now, but I will say Vietnam. And then I realize I just mean Saigon. And I mean like 2 districts in Saigon. Because that's my world. Like my world is not Vietnam. And you've got a map right there. Like we're not in Dak Lak. We're not in Kon Tum. So when I say like Vietnam, and I'm like, no, that's like such a broad stroke.
Well,
But so it's interesting to hear about Hanoi though,
Yeah.
because I've not spent any time there really.
We're quite guilty of it as well because our experience in Hanoi was mostly Teho, which is literally Westerners.
Yeah,
Um,
like 80% of the Westerners live in Teho, basically. Yeah.
And that was our circle. We didn't go out of that. But I think a lot of the things that we miss the most are like the community, the Bia Hois. The Bia Hois are famous. Little plastic chairs, little plastic tables. You get draft beer super cheap in a hand spun glass with ash and dirt and bubbles. But like we play a lot of sports, and after every sport, we go to a Bia Hoi together. And maybe it's because it's smaller too. Like here, if you want to go meet friends for a beer, it's a 40-minute drive.
No, it depends where you're going. But what? Just quickly though, explain what is a Bia Hoi because people listening might not know what a Bia Hoi is.
So basically in the north they have this thing where they brew fresh beer daily. And so it's got a pretty low alcohol content. It's got no preservatives. So it's very easy to drink and basically really cheap. And there'll be like these, they're all over the north of Vietnam.
They're just on the side of the road.
So the
sometimes.
road, everywhere, and you sit down and you drink this cheap, like low alcohol content beer.
Cheap is like 7,000 a glass.
7K a glass,
Which
which is
is-
pretty standard, yeah.
About 20 cents, 25 US cents. That is insane, right?
Usually small glasses, though, right?
You get like jugs for like 20.
That's what I remember when we went to Hanoi when we came in 2015 for a holiday, and we went to the Bia Hoi by the lake. What's the lake called again? The big lake,
Teho.
Teho Lake.
The little
Westlake, I think Westlake it was.
Westlake, same thing. Or there's like the one in Kota Huang Kiem or Hogwam.
Not Huang Kiem, I think it was Westlake. But anyway, we went to Bia Hoi place and you get just a big jug of beer, get some tofu and some rice and all of this. And we just sat there drinking and it's 3%, right? So like even we had Bia Hoi the other night, right? And it's maybe 4.5%. But even that, I felt quite drunk once we'd had a few beers. But by the time I got home, I was like, oh, I'm sober. This is nice. I'm not wasted.
You're only drunk as long as you're drinking it.
Yeah.
It goes away.
And that one, I remember in Hanoi, was so nice because it's social. You're having these big jugs of beer. You're eating food. But because it's only 3%, by the time you walk away, you're like, oh, I'm sober now. Do you want to start your own podcast, or you want to take your existing podcast and turn it from average to amazing? Then listen to Smarter Podcasting with me, Niall Mackay, the podcast guy. I'll give you expert tips and insider strategies to make your show stand out. I also talk to podcasting pros like Ariel Nissenblatt, Sam Sethi, and Adam Shibley. You'll learn the secrets of growing your audience, improving your content, and turning listeners into loyal fans. Just search Smarter Podcasting and start making the best podcast possible today.
But there's Vietnamese people there as well. There's Westerners, there's Vietnamese.
There's Vietnamese coming up to you, cheersing with you, trying to get you to drink rice wine, have shots of rice wine with them.
Whereas here, we'll go out for beers on a Friday night. It's mostly like Westerners in a more like upscale place like Jackaroo or...
Jackaroo is upscale.
Compared to a Bia Hoi, for sure.
The Saigon perspective is, over the last 8 years, there used to be a lot more plastic stool places where you could get, not necessarily Bia Hoi, but you would get cheap. When we first got here, there was a place a couple streets down from Boi Vien, so not Boi Vien, but in the Central District. And we called it 10 Dong LaRue because it was 10,000 for a LaRue beer, which LaRue beer is shit. But when we first got here, we were like, that's so cheap for a can of beer. And you get food, same thing. But I think one of the cool things over the last 8 years is that you can go to some amazing bars, cocktail bars, great atmosphere, upscale, really nice. I think to the detriment though, and at the expense of like plastic stool places, like they're really hard to find now. They exist, but they used to be way more plentiful than they are now.
Yeah, it's part of that. I'm just thinking as well, so when we came 2015, we got taken to a Bia Hoi place in downtown Saigon, so it's right next to the Viet Cong Bank Tower off of Hai Bat Trung. It's not there anymore, and it was one of the dirtiest places you have ever been to. But it was Bia Hoi place right in the middle of Saigon, and I think it was demolished not long after that. I think because when we came back 2016, I think gone. But it was just so horrible. It was like disgusting inside. So you can't be like, oh, I wish that was still there. Because there was like 5 old Vietnamese guys there drinking, and it was fresh beer. They brewed it on site. But that is a big difference. We used to work in Govat, or Govat, I think is how you say it. And we passed a Bia Hoi place every time we would go to school. And then because we had a shitty Yamaha Novo that broke down all the time, one time it was broken down again, so we had to get grab bikes to school. And we're like, let's go to the Bia Hoi place when we finish, because we don't have to drive tonight. So we went, and it was a proper Bia Hoi place, because I remember it came up in my memories recently. It was like, the beer was literally like 30 cents, less than 10,000 a beer. Yeah. And we sat there and we had food. I don't know if it's still there. I can remember where it was. I should look it up on the map and see if it's still there. So there are some Bia Hoi places in Saigon, but it's not. So
it doesn't have that same sort of feel to it. Nah. It's like a vibe thing, I reckon.
I think that can, like when we were in Hanoi, we comment to like, quite close to the farm, the agricultural area. So a lot of those people are coming in and selling their fruit. And then also it contributes to the air pollution. 2 or 3 times a year, they're lighting their fields on fire and just burning it.
To burn it back, because then that help replenish the crop.
That came from Laos or Thailand.
So
the Vietnamese say.
or the number one enemy of the Northern Vietnamese, China. Yeah, like the air pollution is something I definitely noticed. I feel like a lot of it's similar, but just in the south here, there's so much more. You get sea breezes coming through and blowing everything away, whereas it doesn't really happen 250 kilometers inland with Hanoi.
No, we're in a basin in Hanoi, but also it's more industrial. Yeah, the charcoal, like they're using coal. Coal.
There's the 3 main things that cause the air pollution in Hanoi is bikes and cars, transport, burning stuff, whether it's rubbish, trash, or whatever, and then construction dust. And those are the three things that contribute to the air pollution, because it being hazy, like my first year, I get here my first day, I'm catching the taxi in from the airport, and I'm like, oh, wow, this is... No, it's blue skies. I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. And I get up to my apartment, and I look out, and I can see the mountains on the distance from Hanoi. And then I could see those same mountains once in the next year or twice in the next year. And I'm sure there's some people who've traveled through Hanoi and be like, you can see the mountains from there? Yeah, you can if it's clear. But that doesn't happen often. That was one of the other cool things about COVID. All those factories shut down so you could see the mountains. Yeah. So you get some...
And all those factories are coal burning. And I think because Hanoi...
Oh, somebody told me that recently. All the coal is in the north, right?
And it gets colder there. So it actually, like, they're burning more coal when it gets colder, and it's like winter's getting longer there.
It gets cold. It's winter.
Yeah, and in Hanoi, in COVID, they weren't running those factories, so a lot of them shut down, and the air quality was amazing.
Oh, it was same here as well. Before COVID, do you remember Saigon went through a spell? It's never been as bad. It was like a thick soup every day. It was so bad you couldn't see the top of Landmark.
It was Hanoi-esque.
No, it was Hanoi-esque. It was really, really, really bad. COVID happened, but I don't know why the pollution was so bad, but it was the whole city was like in a brown fog. It was you literally couldn't see the top of Landmark. Then COVID happened, and suddenly it was like blue skies. It was so beautiful. And to be honest, the pollution since then has been better. But I saw this week Hanoi had a AQI rating of 222. It was the highest in the world. Did you see that?
It's regularly been in the top. It's regularly been in the top 10. I work as a coach, and classes would get semi-regularly cancelled because of that. So rain, and because mainly outdoor courts, rain and AQI being high, and all the international schools have like AQI policies. So yeah.
But you said you played sports outside, so that's what I was going to ask. Like, how did you guys feel? Because we don't do much outside, mostly because of the pollution. Like, we work out in the gym. If we were going to play pickleball, for example, we would look at the AQI. Yeah, we don't run. So for you guys in Hanoi, how did that affect? You were saying before you went and poisoned yourself with Bia Hoi, you would do sports.
It was bad. Like, even now, I'm just looking. It's 158 today.
What is it here?
Bad.
158 is red, right? Dangerous.
Yes.
64 in Saigon. I mean, that's
still bad. That's moderate. That's still not great.
No. I looked up in Glasgow one time, it was 5.
Yeah.
I was like, that's the difference, right?
People wear masks in Hanoi, and I was there before COVID, and people wear masks in Hanoi for the pollution anyway. Yeah. And then COVID comes around, and it's like everyone's just...
Yeah, there was no anti-mask brigade. They were I saw a guy wearing 3 one time on a bike with no helmet. Not kidding. Going down Tau Dien, he had 3 masks on. I could see them and no helmet. And I was like, you are more likely to die from falling off your bike and hitting your head. Why are you wearing 3 masks? But sorry, I interrupted you. What were you saying? Sorry.
No, like when you're driving, I just found in Hanoi, you could taste the exhaust. It would just be like in your throat, in your lungs.
Yeah, neither of us are smokers. And
you have a mask on your bike?
I would, because otherwise you're like, feeling a sore throat.
A proper one, like an AQI mask. Because we yell at our friends because they wear just like the medical mask that is...
Does nothing.
Some of them a little bit. I bought those big medical ones before, like proper ones with a filter and stuff before, but I don't know, they've been big bulky.
It's a bit bulky. I've got cancer in the lungs. Why didn't you wear a mask? It was a bit bulky. Who gives a shit? You got to wear the big masks. You've got to wear a proper AQI pollution mask.
Well,
they're hard to find here, so you buy them. It's labeled as, and then it arrives, and it's this is just a cheap. And that But in Hanoi, when you order them, it's all labeled as being top of the line, and then it arrives and it's a medical mask. No, but since we arrived here, now I'm not driving. I'm a mask.
I've not worn a mask.
You don't wear a mask in Saigon
since I've driven down here now.
And I know
we've yelled at our friends for this before. Why are you not wearing a mask?
Because I lived in Hanoi and it's 5 times 1 out of 64. So this is nothing.
But it's still bad.
You see traffic because of traffic.
Yeah, how many people live in Hanoi?
I hear there's over 7 million bikes here or something, eh?
Yeah, 7.3 million, and that was in 2019, and they're adding 50,000 a week. So, and now they're at the cars. But I'm going to yell at you because we've yelled at our friends Lewis and Kim before. We're like, you have to get a mask. We do not go on the bike without a mask, a proper AQI mask, because we realized as soon as we got here pretty much, and we don't smoke, we're like, if we're going to live here, even for a short time, we never thought we were going to be here for 8 years. But you think of the accumulation of months, weeks, years of breathing in these toxic fumes. Like 64, like you said, and we're like, oh, it's only 64, but it's still, what does it say for 64? I think it says
Moderate.
and then it gives a warning, right? It
It
says
tells you how to after.
somewhere like for people with asthma, or it says don't work limit outdoor activity or
I have
something.
seen that, but now I can't.
You can't find it.
Yeah, it usually says like limit outdoor activity, which is hilarious because the proper international schools don't actually limit anything until it's 200 or above.
No, I thought it was way
Oh
lower
no,
than that.
and they'll fib about it a little bit too.
This is the one.
And
That's
I'll write
what
it
we
down. Yeah, they'll fib about it too. They'll be like, "Oh, it's $199. You're okay. You're okay."
I heard this in Australia that there's a rule that as soon as it hit 37, work sites got to shut off for the day. So workies would literally. What did I say?
Well, now you're talking
Oh, sorry,
about
37 degrees
temperature,
temperature.
Yeah.
And so workies, like tradies, would be on the building sites literally like 7:30 a.m. and they're just watching the temperature. And as soon as it hit 37, they're all like, yes! And they're just like, right, time to go home.
If you're in a union or you're in a salary job, sure. Like I mainly worked. I worked in construction in Australia, but I was mainly like self-employed. So
okay.
I would work on roofs. So I would organize to get on, depending on what the work I was doing. If it was quiet work, I'd see. Oh, I get there. I just started and I'll be quiet, and then I would finish by 10. But 8 o'clock,
because it's
you're
so hot.
you're sweating. It's really hot. Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. They say like 199. They got the machine rigged that never goes above 199.
Or they have like 3 or 4 communities around the city that measure the official AQI, and it's like, yeah, but I'm 7 kilometers away from that, and you're looking out the window and you literally can't see the building next door. And you're like, I don't think it's 200. It's got to be more.
So-
like, I think the top. I think I took a picture.
Yeah, everyone just stayed inside. I remember this. I worked at one of the biggest schools, most sort of private schools in Vietnam, in Hanoi, and they had their own system based literally out on their campus.
And just went out, licked their finger and was like,
No, they had
it feels like 50 today.
they had a link to their own website.
If you want to dive deeper into our community of passionate listeners, then we have restarted our Patreon so that we can build a community of people, and we're calling that community the Bop Sao Dares. You can choose a level that suits you. You can become a Cafe Suada, a Banh Mi, a Com Tam, a Bun Tet Nung, or the ultimate level, you can become a Bop Sao Day. Join the fun with me and let's explore Vietnam together like never before. So hit that link in the show notes and join my podcasting adventure of a Vietnam podcast today. Cheers. Sorry, Krista just showed us a picture of 402.
It was the worst in the world that day.
This is one of the worst I've ever seen.
Number 1.
402?
350 micrograms or whatever it is.
Yeah, they had their own measuring station at the school, and the policy was if it was over 200 an hour before class, we would cancel class for these outdoor classes. And I remember looking at it, and it's 90 minutes before, and it's like in the low 300s. And I mentioned this to the thing. They're like, "All right, you gotta wait till an hour, and then call it on the hour." And then 80 minutes before, it's like 280. I'm like, okay. And then 70 minutes before, it's 220, and then 60 minutes, and then we had to go to class. Because also it fluctuates with the time that it'd be traffic as well. So yeah.
We've noticed recently, it's not great right now, but it has been really good. And you're talking about the construction dust. This is just my theory. I don't know if it's true, but there's been so much construction here. I wonder if it's slowing down, because how many more buildings can you build? So I wonder, Adrie doesn't agree with me.
Oh, I just don't think the construction's slowing down. There's just continuous construction
So
all
there's
the time.
more and more people. It's the government policy here is they
There's
want the population to grow.
definitely a
Like,
lot.
so, yeah.
There's definitely a lot more electric vehicles on the road.
Well, yeah.
With
VinFast.
VinFast, their whole fleet of taxis, electric bikes. We have an electric bike. I don't know how significant that is, but it must have an effect.
But it is better now than it's been for a long time, and it's been quite good. The last week or so, it's been quite bad, but there was a spell for about a month. Every day you opened the window and it was like, oh, for you guys from Hanoi, this must be like, whoa, blue skies. I've not seen this in 4 years.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
It's amazing. I wonder if the rain kind of washes it away. Like in Hanoi.
Acid rain, yay!
Yeah.
Don't drink the rainwater.
Yeah. Because in Hanoi, it'd be months without any rain sometimes. So nothing's like clearing it off, and then you have a good rain. It's the air feels so nice.
Like June, July would feel like grimy by the end of it. Like you touching the handles of your bike and you're like, oh, this feels gross.
There's nothing I've heard that is good about Hanoi. But
Great food. Like honestly,
well, I was going to say,
I love the food.
Great people.
Great people.
Tell us some of the good stuff about Hanoi, because obviously it's not all bad. Or maybe. Why are you laughing?
There's just some things that are quite bad that I'm not a fan of in hindsight. Great food. I don't like it. I quite like lots of people there. Honestly.
Yeah, I like even.
Confident about that.
I don't know. I get it.
It's weird here. When we moved here, like Vietnamese people, like complete strangers, so nice, and you're like,
In Saigon.
yeah,
what
you've
they're
never
doing.
met me. But in Hanoi, I feel like they take a little bit of warming up.
Yeah.
But once they've warmed up to you, you're like part of their family.
That's what
They
I've
will
heard,
do
yeah.
anything for you. Like, I shouldn't say even strangers, because friends and I, we took a bike trip to Cao Bang, and we had one Vietnamese person with Lord, because there was no stores, there was no restaurants open. She literally would go up to people's doors and knock and say, hey, I heard sometimes you'll serve food to people. We pay them, but like really, it's their house. It's not a restaurant. And you could never do that in any country, right? Like just ruck up to someone's house and knock on the door and be like, hey, do you want to cook me lunch?
Hey, can you make me some pasta?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Like, that's pretty unusual. But I just find like the people here so nice. Maybe it's like my first 2 weeks I was on crutches. Like,
what I've heard is that, like what you just said, is up north, even for Vietnamese people, I've had Vietnamese people tell me that can take you 2 or 3 times to be invited to dinner or whatever it is to really get to know them. But once they do invite you to dinner or once you get to know them, that is your family. Whereas here in Saigon, I think it's because it's the big city, right? They're instantly more friendly, but they're probably not going to invite you to dinner or maybe. And that we found that we don't have many Vietnamese friends, unfortunately. We know Vietnamese people and stuff, and they're all absolutely lovely. But, and I've also mentioned this a lot on this podcast before, is it's the same worldwide. We lived in New Zealand. Our friends were all expats. We had New Zealand friends, but we weren't invited to dinner ever in New Zealand. Nobody really invited us. No, because they've all got their own friend groups from high school. They all know each other from work.
Clicky like that.
Kiwis.
Kiwis, yeah. So I don't think it's any different in Vietnam.
Yeah.
In Saigon.
Like I would say here, same thing. All our friends are foreign.
You gotta
I
form
mean,
your own
maybe Paul's a
community,
little
right?
different. Even the
Yeah,
sports
definitely.
we play. In Hanoi, like Vietnamese people were just our inner circle. And here, it's not so much. Like,
Yeah.
maybe because we're new and it will take time, but
Maybe. Because I think, like for me, like doing comedy in Hanoi, like 80% of the comedy scene there were Vietnamese men. So performing. So yeah, you're gonna be friends with Vietnamese men if you do comedy in Hanoi, and that was really good. And then the sports we did play, there would be Vietnamese. Like if it wasn't for Vietnamese, there would not be a club in Hanoi for sure. And yeah, like part of me hanging out with them more. Also here we're living in like just a different area to where like the people that we know live. Like we know people from sports. And
But I feel like you didn't really answer that question. What was good about Hanoi?
people,
You were like the people.
people, the food. No, the people, the food.
no, he wasn't sure. I was sure.
What do you think the food's better in Hanoi or just different or what? Because I love Bun Cha Hanoi. We've been for Bun Cha.
Everything's a competition.
I know. But why was the food good? Because I know Bun Cha, but what else is?
But I think also
Salty
because
right
we
now.
were surrounded by Vietnamese food, it was so easy to get. Here, we're going out of our way to go to the little Vietnamese places, the little.
Is it less like Western in Hanoi? Because here so many people speak
Absolutely.
English.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like even the street that I was living on for the last year, in the morning, all of the chiois are out selling vegetables and their eggs, and that's in the Western.
That's like dead
community.
smack middle of Teho. Yeah.
So Western community is still Vietnamese. I would walk up the street, like you could walk anywhere. I think that's a big difference as well. As it was almost like a small town within a big beginning. When I said we're talking about Hanoi, really we're just talking about Teho.
Yeah. Interesting. And Tao Dien is similar, right? And people talk shit about, or some people talk shit about Tao Dien or Andy 7 as well, like they're the expat areas. But I always defend them, and I'm like, no matter where you are in the world, communities find their own people, right? So that's why you have Little Italy, why you have Chinatown, the Greek village, or whatever it is. Like wherever you are, people are going to find the people that are the same. But we did live in District 4 for a couple of years, and that is as close to what you're describing. But there's no Western people. Like if we saw another Westerner, we'd like, oh my God, did you see that? It was like another Westerner. So it was really a Vietnamese or Saigonese.
I've definitely experienced this with Vietnamese friends in the north and the south, where in the north they'll be like, oh, the Vietnamese in Saigon, they're so Western, and it's an insult, right?
Yeah.
Whereas the Saigon Vietnamese will be like, oh, down here we're so much more Western, and it's like a way of shitting on the north.
Yeah.
Like it's, oh yeah, we're more Western, we're more open, we're cooler. Like it's, in which I obviously would lead back to other things from 40, 50 years ago. But yeah, it's just a mentality. Did your dog just poop in our bedroom?
No,
No, she doesn't
she
do
wants
that.
to go on your bed.
Does she? Is she
Yeah, she was,
tired?
like,
Oh my God, she gets so
standing, like,
tired.
Let me on this bed.
Basically wants to go to sleep. I think it's a good time to stop right now, but we're going to continue this because we actually haven't even gotten to like why you moved to Saigon. We talked about it in the beginning a little bit, but I want to hear more about it and more about what life in Saigon is like, because we've talked a lot about Hanoi. That's a perfect time to finish. So thank you, Krista. Thank you, Paul. This is the Saigon Sunday Sessions on a Vietnam podcast. Thank you, Adrie, for joining as well. And
Thank you, Biscuit.
Thank you, Biscuit, for being here as well. Remember, if you enjoyed this, follow, subscribe, do all that cool stuff, turn on notifications. The best thing that you can do is leave a review or share this episode with somebody else who loves Vietnam and loves Saigon. And don't forget, go to patreon.com/Vietnam podcast and you can become a Bops out there and join the 7 million bike community. All right, cheers.
Hột gà nướng, hột vịt lộn, hột vịt sữa, trứng cút lộn, mất xào đây. Mất xào đây.
I wanted to share with you about one of my favorite affiliate partners, and that is Fiverr. I've been using Fiverr for years for everything from ordering YouTube thumbnails to keyword research, writing podcast articles, even to Canva designs and thumbnails and more. So whether you're a budding entrepreneur, a podcaster, or anyone in between, Fiverr has got you covered. It really is the go-to platform if you want to find freelancers offering a massive range of services to help you on any project. Maybe you need a stunning new logo or just a short animation, whatever you need, you can find it on Fiverr. What I love the most is how easy Fiverr makes it to connect with talented freelancers from around the world, all at prices that will fit whatever your budget is. Plus, with Fiverr's secure payment system, you can trust that your transactions are safe and secure. No dodgy people you meet on Facebook groups that disappear with your money and never give you what you want. What, that's only happened to me? As an affiliate partner, I will get a small commission if you use the link and at no extra cost to you. As an affiliate partner, I will get a small commission if you click my link and you buy something, all at no extra cost to you. And best of all, you will be directly supporting the making of this podcast that you're listening to for free, but it is not free to make. So why wait? Head over to somewhere that you've probably never been before. It's called the Show Notes. So whatever app you're listening in, if it's Spotify or Apple Podcasts or anything at all, head to the Show Notes, click on my special link, and then you can browse thousands of gigs ready to help you with your next project.